Call the meeting to order. Leesburg City Commission meeting, today's date, November 28th, 2022. Our invocation and pledge will be led by Commissioner Christian.
Please, and bow our heads. Most gracious and Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for being able to live in such a great city such as Leesburg, Florida. We're so thankful as we celebrated a holiday of Thanksgiving. We are so thankful and so much gratitude of the great things that you have done for us and our families. We pray for our city management, our mayor, the commissioners that make decisions tonight that will impact the lives of people, present and the future. We pray that we make those decisions that would be beneficial for all of us. Give us wisdom, guide our thoughts and our hearts tonight, that we can, God, be led by you, and that we can make Leesburg a better place to live, to work. We pray for our business owners. We pray for prosperity in our businesses. We pray for our homeowners. We pray for the people that visit our city. They will find Leesburg a great place, a great destination to visit. We thank you now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Christian.
Thank you, sir.
So proclamations, we have none. Moving on, presentations, our city clerk is going to announce the election results.
Official Records Certificate of Lake County Canvassing Board. We, the undersigned, Emily Currington, County Court Judge, D. Allen Hayes, Supervisor of Elections, Jennifer Hill, BOCC appointee, constituting the Board of County Canvassers in aforesaid county, do hereby certify that we met on the 18th day of November 2022 AD and proceeded publicly to canvass the votes given for the several offices and persons herein specified at the nonpartisan held on the 8th day of November 2022 AD, as shown by the returns on file with the Office of the Supervisor of Elections. We do hereby certify said returns as follows. For Leesburg City Commissioner, Seat 1, District 1, the whole number of votes cast was 898, of which Allison Berry received 527, Constance Christian received 371. For Leesburg City Commissioner, Seat 2, District 2, the whole number of votes cast was 1,216, of which Darrell Crane received 375 votes. Alan Reisman received 841 votes. Leesburg Ordinance 2022-43, referendum question number 1. Yes for approval, 6,069 votes. No for rejection, 1,688 votes. Leesburg Ordinance 2022-43, referendum question number 2. Yes for approval, 5,201 votes. No for rejection, 2,573 votes. We certify that pursuant to Section 102.112 Florida statutes, the Canvassing Board has compared the number of persons who voted with the number of ballots counted, and that the certification includes all valid votes cast in the election. Signed by Emily Currington, County Court Judge, D. Allen Hayes, Supervisor of Election, and Jennifer Hill, BOCC appointee.
Thank you. Moving on to public comments. This section is reserved for members of the public to bring up matters of concern or opportunities for praise. Issues brought up will not be discussed in detail at this meeting. Issues will either be referred to the proper staff or be scheduled for consideration at a future City Commission meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Before we move on, I have some additional comments. Please note to citizens who may be here this evening to give input in favor or against the recently heard Treasure Trove annexation, land use, and zoning case. The Leesburg City Commission duly advertised, took comment, and publicly heard this case at our meeting on the Monday, November 14th, 2022. The ordinance to consider annexation of the Treasure Trove subdivision failed by a vote of 1 in favor and 3 against. As a result, number 1, the property was not annexed. Number 2, there was no reason to consider land use and zoning on the parcel. And number 3, the matter is ostensibly concluded. However, during the November 14th public hearing on that matter, Commissioner Roebuck stated that he may implement a parliamentary rule that allows reconsideration of an ordinance that fails. This rule is specifically provided for in Section 2-39 Section D of the Code of Ordinances. It states that any member of the commission who voted in the prevailing side of a motion may ask for reconsideration of that motion at the next regular meeting. Therefore, if Commissioner Roebuck seeks reconsideration of the treasure trove annexation under the rules of procedures, the City Commission would need to vote on whether the matter is reheard. Should this question be asked, it is the legal opinion of this body that that question is one of parliamentary procedure to be considered by the Commission only. If a reconsideration vote is taken this evening, then the Commission will deliberate and no comments will be taken from the public. If that vote passes, then another public hearing on the matter will be conducted no sooner than 30 days after the proper advertisements are issued. At that hearing, public comment will be taken. If the reconsideration vote fails or is not even considered at the meeting, then the matter remains closed and the parcel remains unincorporated outside the regulatory oversight of the City of Leesburg land development regulations. We'll now move into comments from the public, general public comments. They are limited to 3 minutes, please. None? Okay. We just need your name and address.
My name. I'm Robin Woods, and I live in Leesburg at 1600 Bordeaux Drive. I'm here in response to your consideration for buying equipment to fluoridate the water. Water fluoridation is an unmitigated public health disaster. Fluoride is an enzyme poison, and while ingested fluoride was marketed to reduce cavities beginning in the 1940s, current science shows that ingested fluoride brings no benefits and delivers significant risks. In fact, the FDA has never safety tested fluoride for ingestion. If this is new information to you, it was to me at some point as well. My mom used to give me fluoride vitamins that I was supposed to take as I went off to school, and I'd bury them in the flower pot. And it ended up killing her plant. But she found me out. But I eventually get white spots on my teeth, which I later found out in my adult life. That's fluorosis caused by fluoride. Prior to 1938, sodium fluoride was sold solely as rat poison. I'm going to share just a quote here. Only calcium fluoride occurs naturally in water. However, that type of fluoride has never been used for fluoridation. Instead, what is used over 90% of the time are silicofluorides, which are 85 times more toxic than calcium fluoride. They are non-biodegradable, hazardous waste products that come straight from pollution scrubbers of big industries, phosphate mining companies. If not dumped in the public water supplies, these silicofluorides would have to be neutralized at the highest rated hazardous waste facility at a cost of $1.40 per gallon. Or more, depending on how much cadmium, lead, uranium, arsenic are also present. So cities buy these unrefined pollutants and dump them, lead, arsenic, and all, into our water systems. It doesn't sound like a really good idea. Many countries have already banned fluoride. Most of Europe, Japan, Israel, China, India, they're banned. In fact, Pinellas County, Florida voted to end fluoridation of its drinking water to about 700,000 residents, saving $270,000 a year. There are over 23 published studies that I could give to you showing reduced IQ from fluoride exposure. Fluoride is found in tap water, and dental products is one of the chemicals which block iodine in the body. Fluoride, chlorine, and bromide are health-damaging chemicals that share halide chemical category with iodine. They are thus able to mimic iodine in the body and even replacing it in the iodine receptor, so putting bad and toxic in for good, what we need. Thyroid cancer rates have risen 3.8% every year for the last 10 years. Hypothyroidism is of epidemic levels in our modern society, leading to weight issues and challenges. And as a longtime resident, since 1984, I've been here most of my life, I ask you to consider overall health and the minds of our children before moving forward to purchase equipment to disperse this toxic waste to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. There will be further discussion probably 3 or 4 months from now on that. So a decision has not been made on that. Moving on to the consent agenda. Routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If the commission staff wish to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. Pull the items from the consent agenda, vote on remaining items with one roll call vote, discuss each pulled item, and vote by roll call. Are there any items the commission would like to pull?
5C7 and 5C8.
5A1 and 5C6. Is this civic funding?
Yes.
What's that?
5C6
6, yeah.
and the
Civic.
minutes.
7.
And the minutes.
And the minutes.
No additional items? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the remaining items on consent agenda?
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Christian,
Yes.
Commissioner Bury,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Mayor Peterson.
Yes. What was, we need introduced?
Oh, it's just the minutes.
Okay. The first item is 5A1. We have 2 revisions to that. Commissioner Bury?
Yeah, it's on page 33 of the minutes. I'm trying to get to it here. It was the first vote when Mayor Peterson called for the roll call. In the minutes, it says he was a no and I was a yes, but I was a no and he was a yes. So it's just a flip-flop. that needs to be
Still a
corrected.
3-1 vote, just wrong names.
It was
2-2.
that was the 2-2.
The 2-2, okay.
Right.
Okay. And then our city clerk has some other changes.
And then, excuse me, on page 34, under the city manager's comments, we made a modification to the explanation of the parliamentary procedures with the treasure trove case.
Okay.
Yeah, on that one, there was just some confusion, and Grant and I talked about it, reviewing it. And well, got the whole landslide here. Essentially, that was the vote, that vote was kind of 3-phased. It was a tie 2-2, then it was Commissioner Roebuck changing 1-3, then it was a reconsideration to table to get a date specific for this evening. That failed, and we thought the minutes were a little bit vague. We went back to ask Andy that, so we struck a portion of that in the minutes so that the third part of that specifically was about tabling, not a reconsideration, pursuant to Section 239.
Okay. So we need to approve those changes?
Yes.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve those changes.
A move to approve the changes.
Second.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Okay. Roll call.
Commissioner Bury,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Christian,
Yes.
Mayor Peterson.
Yes. Moving on, would somebody please introduce 5C6?
I will introduce and move for
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute civic organization funding agreements for fiscal year 2022-23 with Band Parents Association of Leesburg High School, Inc., Boys and Girls Club of Central Florida, Inc., Community Development Corporation of Leesburg, Inc., Leesburg Area Chamber of Commerce, Leesburg Arts Festival, DBA Leesburg Center for the Arts, Leesburg Partnership, Inc., and Melon Patch Players, Inc., and providing an effective date.
So now I need a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
Okay. Comments from the commission?
Yeah, I asked for it to be pulled. Number one, the civic funding for the band, you were going to look into something now.
They did not collect last year.
So-
it is a rollover.
Yeah.
So if you don't, and we probably rolled it, meaning that money's gone, but we're only talking $1,000.
Right.
So if you want to pull this year's grant, and if they come back to us, we'll
To
revisit
apply.
that then.
Sure, that's what I'd like to have.
Okay. Yeah, I believe that money went to them a couple years ago for a trip to.
Washington, and then we
Something.
kind of never changed it,
Right.
and
Okay.
then
Right.
Okay.
some changes there.
Any other comments from the commission?
Okay, then the second comment would be with regards to the funding for the arts. I would like to hold that funding pending a later date. I'm not against funding the arts, but I do think the investigation going on needs to be complete before we give them more money.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other comments from the commission?
Just on the band, I know they have a new band director, so maybe a assistant if he came in and talked to the city manager and see if he
We'll reach
we
out.
can help. Thank you,
We'll
sir.
reach out.
No, thank you. Any other comments? Public comments? If none, roll call.
Do we,
Do we need a motion?
Oh.
I think you need to approve the amendment and then vote.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the
changes.
three
Okay.
changes.
The
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion.
Oh, two changes.
two changes to pull funding for the band because they
Correct.
have residual from last fiscal year, and to pull funding from the Arts Center until such time that they square away their current financial situation with more information to us.
Correct.
Could we give the city manager that authority, or do you want it to come back to the commission?
I think it needs to come back to us.
Okay.
second.
Okay. Any other comments, commissioners? Comments from the public? If none, roll call. On the amendment,
Right.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Christian,
I'm gonna have to abstain.
Commissioner Bury,
Yes.
Mayor Peterson.
Yes. Now I need a motion to approve the original resolution, 5C6.
Move for approval.
Second.
Comments from the commission? Public comments? If none, roll call.
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Christian.
Abstain.
Commissioner Bury,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Mayor Peterson.
Yes. Would someone please introduce 5C7?
Introduce and recommend, read by title only, Mr. Mayor.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, providing funding for the Facade, Sign, and Landscape Grant Program, FSL, for a project located within the Greater Leesburg Downtown Community Redevelopment Agency area and providing an effective date.
Motion for approval.
Move for approval.
Comments from the commission?
Yeah, I have a couple. Of course, the same ones I've had every time this gets brought up. It's going to be the same comments on 5.7 and 5.8. I don't think we should be giving this type of
Excuse me,
money away.
I just need a second on that last motion.
Oh, okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Go ahead.
I don't think
Sorry.
we should be giving this kind of money away without stipulations on what they're going to do with the building. I mean, I know they're saying they're going to make these repairs, but I just don't think it's the best interest of the taxpayers to be giving away, in this particular case, $270,000 to someone who just may put the money in the building and then turn around and sell it and pocket the taxpayer money. I think there should be some time limitations on how long they have to own the building, time limitations that they have to get it open and put a business in there. Our intent is to redevelop downtown, not let someone just develop a building on taxpayer money and then throw a for sale sign in the front yard. So until we get that in the ordinance, anything that comes up on any of these, I'm never going to be a yes on. I just think it's unheard of to give away that kind of money, almost $300,000, with no stipulations of what they can do with the building once the improvements are done.
And I think we've had this discussion a few times.
Yes,
In my opinion, this is exactly what the program was for.
But this is the facade grant we're talking
Yes,
about.
Well, no,
okay, I was moving to the
Let's
next
do
one. I'm
that
sorry.
first.
But C8 is going to be the same comment.
I get you.
Okay.
I understand.
Okay.
But we're really talking
Okay.
about the facade.
Any other comments from the commission? Public comments? Okay, if none, roll call on 5C7.
Commissioner Christian,
Yes.
Commissioner Bury,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Abstain.
Commissioner Connell,
No.
Mayor Peterson.
Yes. Someone please introduce 5C8.
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, approving a downtown building redevelopment grant to Palace Partners LLC for renovations at 410 West Main Street and providing an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Move for approval.
Second.
Comments from the commission?
Same comments as before. That's $250,000 to give somebody just to improve their building so they can turn around and possibly sell it with no ties, strings attached to the city at all.
So this gentleman paid $1.4 million for this property. He has a construction budget of $624,000, of which we are giving him $250,000 toward redevelopment of a 3-story building in downtown Leesburg. I welcome any other commissioner comments.
You know, I hear what Commissioner Cannell is saying and his concern, and maybe that's something we may look at going forward. But I think we initially talked about downtown, and you know, I've been here for a while, and we have put a lot of money in downtown. Some of it worked, some of it did not work. Yet we still have buildings that are inoperable to redevelop just due to cost. And I mean, unfortunately, my wife visited downtown Mount Dora Sunday, and so all I've heard for the last 2 days is how great and beautiful downtown Mount Dora is. And I mean, I'm sure that didn't come because people just said, let's pump money into Mount Dora. But I think the city had to assist with roads and make it a destination location. So I think even at $300,000, if Commissioner Cannell concerns are he paid $1.4 million, he put $600,000, there's a $2 million building, and we are in a capitalistic society. If he sells for $2.5 million, Leesburg now has a new investor who just put $2.5 million in downtown Leesburg. We have a building that's renovated on the 3rd floor. Hopefully, people will come and move downtown Leesburg and shop downtown Leesburg and keep the businesses operational more than 2 or 3 years. And I think that's always been the knock on downtown Leesburg is that at 5 o'clock, nothing's open except the 2 old hags. So how do we get more businesses to open past 5 o'clock? And I've been saying it for 10, 15 years. People have to live downtown who can shop downtown and want to come downtown. This is a risk that I think that Leesburg is taking, but I think if the person sells it, somebody buys it, they're going to have to put money in, and they'll get a building that's already renovated. So we went to Savannah on a tour, and first thing they talked about is how do you put sprinkler systems in downtown Leesburg, and cities have to subsidize it. And the Opera House was the first building we put sprinkler system in on a kind of a CRA type loan, and that building's been bought, sold, and we've done great things to that building, but it wouldn't have been done without a $50,000 to $60,000 sprinkler system. So I think these are the risks that we have to take. And the tour vision down in St. Pete, one thing that kept coming out, it has to be intentional. Your downtown won't remodel by us crossing our fingers and hoping it. It has to be intentional, and this is one of those intentional things I think the city is doing, is that we're intentionally helping someone remodel a 3 or 4 story building downtown. So that's why I support it, because I want to see downtown Leesburg thrive.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments, commissioners?
The only thing I want to add to that, I'm not against the program. I'm against not having any stipulations on giving $250,000 away with no strings attached. We just, okay, here, make these improvements and then do whatever you want to do with the building with no requirements at all of what he can do after the project's done with it. That's my problem.
And I agree, but I think it'll be unfair to punish this guy on something that we didn't put in place. So unfortunately, I'll be gone, and maybe 3 of you guys can put something in place moving forward, so the next guy that puts an application in doesn't think that he's going to get $200,000 from the city, then we yank it because we didn't put the teeth in it to say you got to keep it, or it's a proration that, you know, you sell it in 3 years, you pay the city a certain amount back. That may be something that you guys can look at going forward.
Well, I believe this is the first one under this program that we've discussed. And I mean, I know we discussed it last year when the program came about. I still think it should be adjusted, and those requirements should be made before we start giving out this kind of money. I mean, $250,000 is a lot of money. It's a lot of taxpayer money to a developer.
So I have to abstain. No, I'm not really involved in this at all, other than the guy who I don't know that just applied, put a quote from a contractor that does a little bit of business with us. So to be safe, I'm doing that. But in regards to these points, I think it's important. While it like feels bad if the guy puts the money in and sells the building, and like, would he take our money? At the end of the day, if he sells the building for more money, the city's going to win because it's going to be taxed at a higher dollar because we're going to re-up it, and then because it's CRA, we're going to get a lot more of those funds than we would normally. So I get it. It feels kind of kind of kind of like something's wrong there, but at the end of the day, if the city comes out ahead from the tax base, I don't care what it is, as long as it's nicer.
Well, Commissioner Cannell and I have had this debate before. I think one of the analogies, I'm not putting words in his mouth, one of the analogies he used, he compared it to, I believe it was homes and partnership funding. And that's a situation where there's a loan in place and we give the money for the down payment. That's a whole different animal. They have no skin in the game. This is, this guy has tremendous skin in the game. That's to me, that's the difference. But we debated this when we approved it for the audience's benefit. We approved $1 million. I'm disappointed this is the first request. I hope to put this entire $1 million into downtown. And I want to set a good example and take care of this applicant.
It wasn't Homes and Partnership, but I know the conversation.
I wasn't trying to
it wasn't Homes and
sarcastic.
Partnership that we
It's a whole
spoke
different
about.
program is all I meant.
Yes, but I still think there should be some time limitations on this.
Any other comments from the commission? Any public comments? Please step forward to the podium. I just need your name and address.
My name is Linda Kiro. I live at 10220 Bumblebee Lane in Leesburg. I'd like to ask a question, actually. What happens in this program if the builder goes bankrupt or has some other financial problem? Our taxpayer dollars are gone?
Yeah, I'll tackle that for you because administratively, the program is based on reimbursement, and so there was two grants we considered. There's the FSL grant, Facade Sign and Landscape Grant. That company provided us an estimate of about $350,000 worth of exterior improvements, which qualified for FSL. The FSL grant is only paid on a reimbursement basis. So if they go bankrupt after the improvements have been made and then the value's in the building, if they go bankrupt before the improvements are made, then the grant's not paid out. The same holds true for the downtown business, we call it the downtown building grant. The purpose of that grant was to get these multi-story buildings that are older, that are historic, that add the ambiance, that add the character, that add the multifaceted uses to encourage apartment, residential living, commercial business, professional business. So the simple statement was multi-story, multi-use. There's actually only, and it was a very specific targeted area from about 9th Street to 2nd Street, from Magnolia to Meadow. And if you're in that box, there, by description of the program, there's really only about 8 buildings that fit that description. One of them is Lifestream, which we kind of assume Lifestream wouldn't be making these improvements. So it was targeted for that multi-use, concepts. The Palace concept is a multi-use concept in that it's professional, commercial on the downstairs, professional on the 2nd floor, and then potentially residential on the 3rd floor. So if that company goes bankrupt prior to making these improvements, again, the grant wouldn't be paid out because it's done on a reimbursement basis. In some of my brief conversations with them, they're probably about 75% into those renovations complete. So before that grant's paid out, we'll have to review the receipts and all that, make sure those improvements are made. So long story short is if the improvements aren't made by some type of bankruptcy, it doesn't get paid out. If it's not made, it doesn't get paid out. And once it's paid out, then those improvements are in the building. So if it is sold, the value goes up. In this case, for example, as the mayor mentioned, and not to be argumentative with the commission because we talked about this, but the difference here, to kind of just put some numbers to the picture, the Palace sold for $1.4 million. But if you go back and you do the history on that building, it was owned by one specific local owner for years and years, probably only had a taxable value of somewhere around $250,000. So that's going to change for 2 reasons. One, the sale. That's how taxable value changes. So now there's a contract for $1.4 million. So immediately the taxable value typically becomes about 80% of the sale value. So 80% of 1.4 million. So right there's about 800,000. So probably somewhere around $1 million is going to be the reassessed value. But then when they come in and pull the permits, you also have to list a value of the impermits that you put in. So they're saying they're doing about $600,000 of interior improvements, $300,000 of exterior improvements. Those also then become taxable. So you see a building that goes from about a $300,000 taxable value to now about 1.75 million. So if they flip the building, the city still wins because there's whatever percentage that is. You went from $200,000 taxable value to $1.2 million taxable value, and now you have a significant contributor to your ad valorem taxes. So we had that discussion. I appreciate Commissioner Connell's perspective on this issue, but that was the discussion that we had and why the program wasn't changed. It can be changed in the future if that's the case. The flip side of the equation, too, just for perspective, I know I'm rambling here a little bit, but the conversation came up on some of our home programs where we do residential, single-family residential lending. And so we'll give a low-interest loan or no-interest loan to a low to moderate income family. And in that one, we'll put on a stipulation that you can't sell that. And the difference there is that, as the mayor said succinctly, there's no skin in the game on the residential side. So if you have a family that's low to moderate income, the city potentially fixed up and put a couple $100,000 into a building, a home, we don't want a low to moderate family to come in there, flip that building for the increase in assessed value, because the structure of that program was to get a family living in a home and not to reap the taxable benefits. So there's a difference in that, because that family comes in as low to moderate income. We're assisting them. We're taking the risk on a high risk mortgage type customer versus a business person who's put over $1 million cash into a facility where there is an immediate turn if a building's flipped. So those are big differences. That's the philosophy behind the program. Obviously, it is a big award, but the crux there is to get as much investment and redevelopment in the downtown as possible. So trade-offs in everything we do.
No, thank you. Any other public comments? If none, roll call.
Commissioner Burry?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes. Or abstain.
Commissioner Connell?
No.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Mayor Peterson?
Yes. Moving on to public hearings and non-routine items. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, sorry,
I'm
I'll
sorry.
go ahead and ask that we schedule the Treasurer Trove PUD for a rehearing.
That's a motion.
There'll be a motion.
Okay. I need a second.
Second.
Comments from the commission?
So I think this would just be, it would be reheard, SB 138, so it would be the next commission, but I do think it's fair that the applicant get a full commission of 5 votes to hear it. I think they've already sent over some revisions.
Turn your microphone on. Sorry.
They've already sent over some revisions, and would encourage them to work with staff and the new commission and the landowners, but I do think it's fair that anyone gets a hearing from a full commission.
I would say we listened to almost 2 hours of testimony on this. I think we made a decision. I understand, Commissioner Christian wasn't here, but a decision was made. I don't really think we need to rehear it. It's already been heard for, like I said, almost 2 hours, the last meeting, so I don't see the need to bring it back up.
Any other comments, commissioners?
Unfortunately, I was not here. I was at an annual church event in Memphis, but I did listen to your comments. I heard all the resident comments while I was in the airport. So I was with you, and not in person, unfortunately, but I wish I would have been here.
Okay. If any other comments from the commission? If none, roll call on the motion.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Burry?
No.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
No.
Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
Let me summarize that for the public. So that was section, and you, Mayor, you said this briefly, but just for parliamentary reasons, let me remind the public of where this is at. So Section 2-39 of the Code of Ordinances of the city allows a party who's in the prevailing vote of any action, in this case it was an ordinance, if they're in the prevailing action, they are allowed to ask for a reconsideration vote, meaning you get to reconsider. But that reconsideration vote has to come at the immediate next regular meeting. So the issue was heard, the Treasure Trove issue was heard, publicly advertised, public comments were received, the process was completed, the process was stopped after the commission did not pass the ordinance for annexation. So Commissioner Roebuck this evening used that section of code, the reconsideration section 2-39D, to ask the commission for reconsideration. The commission voted this evening by a vote of 3-2 to rehear the case. That means the Treasure Trove subdivision, the annexation, the land use, and the zoning will be reheard. So we're back to the requirements of advertising for the hearing again. So we redo the hearing. The code on that issue says there's 30 days notice. So the petitioners have contacted me this afternoon. They want to meet with residents. They know the holidays are around the corner. So for the purposes of this, what I'll be recommending to this body, assuming all approve, is that the second hearing for the Treasure Trove subdivision be reheard by the commission pursuant to this vote on Monday, February 27th, 2023. So that's beyond the 30-day requirement. That gives the petitioners time to get in touch with residents for any potential changes based on the things that they heard at the previous meeting. And then this body will hear the case on the 27th of February, 2023. We will duly advertise that date with 30 days notice. We will send out notices like we did on the prior case to all those, what is it, Dan? Is it 100 feet or 500 feet? It's 200 feet. We will put an advertisement in the newspaper as required by law. We will send out specific notices to all residents who live within the periphery of 200 feet of that parcel and inform you that the public hearing for this issue will be heard again on February 27th, 2023. At that time, we'll do the normal procedure for a public hearing, which is a staff presentation, the petitioner's presentation, and then public comment. So at that time, everybody will get an opportunity to give their viewpoint to the commission. If you have documents or information or want to use the PowerPoint, remember, everybody's got 3 minutes. The general members of the public have 3 minutes. Please get that to my office, which is the Office of the City Manager, or get it to Andy Purvis, the Office of the City Clerk, and we'll make sure that whatever documentation or information that you want disseminated to the commission is happening. So just in summary, Treasure Trove will now be reheard on February the 27th, 2023, 5:30 p.m., and we will duly advertise that pursuant to the state requirements.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay. Moving on, public hearings and non-routine
So
items.
if you want, that's all on Treasure Trove this evening, folks. So if you want to join us for the rest of the meeting, you're welcome. Or we can take a quick recess. And look, nothing will be talked about Treasure Trove at this body. A vote will not be taken until the 27th of February, where everybody has opportunity to provide public input again.
Thank you again.
Should we give out the new commissioner's cell phone numbers?
Dan's Christmas present.
Oh, and by the way, Dan.
My last COVID trip finally got rescheduled.
There you go. Good for you.
Indonesia, Cambodia.
I knew it was somewhere bigger.
Yeah. It finally
I'm gonna move on. Okay. Moving on, public hearings and non-routine items, second reading of ordinances. We are now moving into a quasi-judicial procedure. I'm going to let our city attorney take over for a minute.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As was mentioned, we're going to move into our second reading of ordinances. So if anyone is here present this evening and plans to present any evidence or testimony on the public hearing items, and that's under 6A of the agenda, if you would please stand and raise your right hand so you could be sworn in now. All right. Do you swear or affirm that all testimony you'll give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Mayor, we're all
Okay,
set.
thank you. So I'm going to ask that we have introduce items 6A 1, 2, and 3, introduce them together, then we'll come back and discuss them, and then we will vote on them one by one. So if someone would please introduce 6A 1, 2, and 3.
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only.
6A1, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, annexing certain real property consisting of approximately 49 plus minus acres, being generally located west of County Road 44 and north and south of Sing Road, lying in Section 16, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida. Providing that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city. Providing that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city, as if all such territory had been a part of the City of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances. Providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 1 and providing an effective date. 6A2, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the City of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 49 plus minus acres from Lake County Rural Transition to City of Leesburg Estate Residential for property generally located west of County Road 44 and north and south of Sing Road, lying in Section 16, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6A3, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 49 plus minus acres from Lake County R1 Rural Residential to City of Leesburg PUD Planned Unit Development to allow a single-family residential development for property generally located west of County Road 44 and north and south of Sing Road, lying in Section 16, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Motion to approve 6A1.
Move for approval.
Second.
At this point, I'll turn to staff for presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Dan Miller, Planning and Zoning. This is an annexation, comp plan, and rezoning for property generally located west of County Road 44 and north and south of Sing Road. It contains approximately 49 acres. This action is a request to change the future land use designation on the property from Lake County Rural Transition to City of Leesburg Estate Residential, and to amend the zoning from Lake County A Agriculture to Lake County R1 Rural Residential to City of Leesburg PUD. The project is planned to contain single-family units only. Again, 49 acres, 162 units, 50 and 60-foot lots with 1,500 and 1,700-foot minimum house sizes respectively. 3.3 units per acre, 35% open space, single-family uses. There are design standards for all the homes, dark sky lighting, gutters on all four sides, boulevard-style access point on County Road 44, 25-foot buffer around the entire property, trees in each yard, wetlands protection, irrigation controls to control and use Bermuda, Bahia, and Zoysia instead of St. Augustine. 0.9 acres required in recreational area, which is 39,000 square feet. Staff would like to respectfully request the following 3 changes to the document that's being brought before you tonight. At the number one, at the last meeting, there was a request for an industrial use notice to be added. As the applicant, I've met with the applicant today, they're doing a phase 2, which is an extensive environmental study. They requested that this notice be changed from an industrial notice to an agricultural notice. So it's a notice of agricultural uses instead of industrial notice. And from staff's viewpoint, as this is a notice for announcing that a use that can be interpreted as either industrial or agricultural, and there are cattle on the property as well as the spray field, staff did not have an objection to that. It's a pointing out of a different land use. We feel like it accomplishes the same goal. On the side setbacks, for the 60-foot wide lots, the applicant wanted to change those from 7.5 feet, which would give you 15 feet between houses, to 5 feet, which would allow them the option of building 3-car garages and RV garages. We've seen a lot of those happen in Arlington Ridge, actually. And in return for that, they're happy to use the gutter language that was agreed on some previous that had to do with the hip roofs, and staff is okay with that. And then finally, it was requested at the last meeting that staff would remove the references to Concept Plan B, which staff faithfully did, then somehow didn't get it correct in the software. So I apologize for that. That's my fault. But I would like to be able, there's, I think, places on page 1 and 2 of the PUD that we did not correctly get that option B out of there, which was requested, and I don't know what happened. But I made the changes, but I didn't attach it. Andy and I had a conversation this morning. Mr. Mike Rankin of Land Planning Group of Mount Dora and Mr. Eric Swanson of Swan Capital are both here if you have any further questions.
Okay. So are they going with Plan B, or are you?
They're actually going with Plan A,
Okay, I
which
just wanted to be
was
sure.
the single
Okay.
family only.
Okay.
162 single-family.
Yes, sir.
Dan, real quick, do you have any concern about the RV parking, the amount of RVs, will you limit them, or they can build as the market is driven?
Generally, from staff standpoint, we'd prefer that the market drives whether or not someone chooses the option of a 3-car garage or an RV garage. A lot of houses that we've seen in Arlington Ridge over the past couple of years have had the RV garages, which is, you have to get used to it. But when there's a few in the neighborhood, it's not a big deal.
And I understand, but we have some over here, the subdivision off of Sunnyside. And my concern is the road, the turn. We say this, but the roads are not really conducive to have 20 RVs and 160 houses. So that's my concern. Are we just going to say build as many you want? We limit, or do we have any concern at all about number of RVs that may be in a neighborhood? And if you go to the new subdivisions, most people aren't parking in garages; they're actually on the street. You go to Lake Denham, you go here to Sunnyside, you have more cars on the street than you have in the park, in the yard. So I know it's hard for us to manage that, but realistically, are we thinking of that, any kind of consideration in that?
Actually, we had not. Generally, the RV garage is built into the house, one with the house. It's not a separate garage.
I see them in Sunnyside, trust me. I've been riding around.
If the commission wants to put a limit on those, staff doesn't have an issue with that.
I was just wondering what your concern. I mean, the roads aren't very large, so I'm just wondering, we consider that at all?
Actually, because the way the structure is built, you're probably not going to put one on anything but a 60-foot lot, and it would be an option. So we didn't do an extensive review of it. No, to directly answer your question, no, we did not do an extensive review. But generally, that's an option that the builder offers if the person who's having the home built wants. So it's usually not all of the houses in a neighborhood. It might be a percentage, and if you wish to place a limit, staff would have no reason to object to that.
I'm just throwing it
Or
out.
if we could separate off a separate area for RV parking. There's options that could be done.
I leave it up to the builder because he got to deal with the homeowners.
Yes,
Have
sir.
to turn to the HOA.
Yes, sir. Understand.
and Dan, go over again. So Cutrale says it shouldn't be built because of the spray field. So the builder is now wanting us to give a letter that says there's cows out there.
Actually,
It's agriculture.
there is an industrial notice that's in the PUD
Right.
that we normally put on anything next to industrial. The land is actually zoned agricultural.
Right.
And there's the big Watusi cattle out there. And from that standpoint, because it's Cutrale's reuse water that's sprinkled out there, there's not an odor. It's not an industrial effect. It's more of an agricultural effect to the homeowner. So staff doesn't have an objection whether you call it industrial or agricultural. It's simply a notice saying
Can we
there's
just
something
call it a
going on
spray
here.
field?
Spray field.
Yeah, I think you need to be careful about not. It needs to say certainly that it is a spray field. That's what they
We can
use
do
it for.
that. That's
And
what it
it,
is.
Call
I
it a
agree. I
spray
mean,
field notice.
growing up out there, there were times when you could smell it, and
Okay.
the residents would complain, and they would flush their lines, and then it would stop. But
Okay.
you will one day have people coming here if you
We-
don't tell them what's there.
Would a spray field notice wording work?
I mean, spray field with cattle. You know, it's a, you know, that, so they know what,
Yes, sir.
you know, just, it doesn't have to be, it's an industrial, I mean, it's a spray field is what
Because
they should be
as
aware.
it's zoned agricultural, the likelihood of it ever becoming an actual industrial use is highly unlikely. But the spray field
It'll
could
probably
be argued as
that
agricultural
for-
or industrial, so I think a
Until
spray
it
field
goes
notice
somewhere else.
would work.
Mr. Miller, and just to jump in here, looking at the PUD language, it looks like Section 4E addresses the spray field notice. I don't know if you'd like to read that for everyone, just to see if that's what the commissioners are wanting to see in the document.
Spray field notice to subsequent buyers. Each contract for sale of property within this development shall have a clause noting the adjacent spray field, industrial comma use as shown in Exhibit F attached here too. And then Exhibit F calls it an industrial. We use the wording that we've used in previous on that. Exhibit F then calls it an industrial notice. And basically, staff is looking at it from the standpoint of if you want to call it notice of spray field use, it's the same, because it's telling you exactly what it is. There's no question about it. And so staff would request that. I think the applicants would be okay if it says spray field. To us, it's, from a staff standpoint, it's six one way, half dozen the other.
And again, the current language calls it a spray field.
Just a
that's
spray
in-
field.
In
That's
the
all it needs to.
PUD.
I don't
Yeah,
know if you
so it
need to
does-
say industrial or anything else. I
Okay.
mean, it's just,
But it does look like the spray field term is included in there, so that
that's,
would be.
that
It is
would like-
included.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is.
Okay.
And it looks like maybe the industrial or sort of in parentheses there, maybe that industrial agriculture issue that's sort of being addressed
Right,
here.
it's
So-
a little bit dicey,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
because of the zoning, it's really never going to become an industrial use, even in the county. If you'd like for us to, in addition, if you'd like for us to limit the RVs to the 60-foot lots as an option, would that,
I'm fine.
okay,
Because they only get on 60 foot. 50 foot's gonna be kind of tight anyway.
50 would be too small anyway. And that's it, Mr.
Okay, thank you. I see the petitioner, so petitioner can make their comments now, their presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the commission, and guests. For the record, my name is Michael Rankin. I'm the president of LPG, and in 33 days and 5.5 hours, my wife and I will be the owners of LPG. So this is a project where we have spent nearly a year on this project in a paradigm fashion of what the developer wanted to what realistically we felt like we could present to the commission. So it's taken some time to get there. Staff's been right there with us working to try to bring the best project possible. But the applicant, Eric Swanson, who represents Swan Capital, the project's called Morningside. He is proposing 162 single-family homes. If you remember, we did have another plan that showed an alternative, and we were asked one or the other, so this is the one we're going with. You'll notice our open space is at 17%, which is required at 18%, Dan, or maybe 15, so it's a tick above what's required in open space. And then the proposed density is 3 units per acre. And I believe in your packet, you'll see renovations of the type of development that single-family homes that we're going to build. We do understand that we'll adhere to the dark skies and the landscaping policies that the city has put in place in recent years. So we're here to answer any questions that you may have. I want to keep my presentation short because I know you get a lot of people that want to talk later on as well.
Okay, and we'll give you a chance to come back up if you want, or if needed.
Mike, is there just one entrance and exit out of that subdivision? Just one entrance and exit?
44 is on this side.
There's two.
Where's that one going?
We have
to?
two entrances.
Sing Road?
That's a dead end. Yeah. So, yes, one entrance off of 44, yes.
There's two.
Looking at the wrong concept. We do have two off 44. One here.
Okay.
And that is a dead end back there, Commissioner.
Okay, we're going to move to public comments, but obviously I'll give you a chance to come back up if you would like. So at this point, we'll move to public comments on this development. I will remind you, comments are limited to 3 minutes. We're going to enforce the clock. So.
Has anybody, and let's go ahead and swear anyone in who wasn't previously sworn in before. Were you sworn in before, sir?
No, go ahead, swear me.
You were? Okay. Anybody else that plans to present any evidence or testimony tonight, if you would, please stand and raise your right hand. This is your chance.
Thank
All right. Do you swear or affirm that all testimony you'll give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Sorry. Ray Hayden, 35121 Dennis Road, Leesburg, Florida. My only comments on this are first, the two exits on 44. County is highly unlikely to be happy about that. I know it's going to be a city property if it's annexed, but access to 44 is going to be difficult. At a future meeting on a different issue, I'm going to be talking about the number of deaths that happen on County Road 44 along that stretch from 441 up to, we call it Leak Road, but up to 473. And there's a number of deaths, and the vast majority of these deaths are traffic fatalities, including the one that just happened over there. My wife and I took photographs of the accident scene, and we submitted them somewhere along the way, I believe. Anyways, but the point is, the vast majority of those happen during the middle of the broad daylight, clear day, beautiful weather on the report, and no issues whatsoever. These people are just going back and forth to work, back and forth to their homes, and they're getting taken out on County Road 44, exactly where this is. Exactly where that property is. Unfortunately, he didn't give you the big picture, but the big picture is right there in Death Alley. And that's 44, and they're going to put these people right there. We're having people getting in accidents. These are just fatalities that I'm researching. I'm only researching the fatalities. Feel free to pass this around. The red block is the property we're talking about, 44, and that lake that you see there is Silver Lake. All right, so that's what the issue is there. It's very, very dangerous. County already knows about it, and until we get, take out enough citizens on that stretch of road, we're not going to get a traffic light. We're not going to get slowdowns. Just today, my wife and I observed, we're just out there counting the crosses. That's all we went out there to do. That was our project for the day, count the dead people on County Road 44, where Leesburg can snatch up property. So we went out to do that, and there's not enough crosses out there, so I had to go dig up the other ones, and I found a whole list of them, which I will be submitting later on. The point is that we saw somebody whip around us on a double yellow line, and then a tractor trailer towing a large vehicle behind it, some kind of a tractor vehicle behind it. The same car went around that and crossed across a multiple hashed center lane down the road. Now, that wasn't on County Road 44, but he had tailed us from County Road 44, whipping around these cars, and we're shocked that he didn't cause an accident. So the point here, and I'll wrap it up, is that A lot of properties are being approved on this area, and the state and Lake County is not going to be able to take care of it. All right, so please consider the safety of these people when you go ahead and approve these properties. This one here is on the wrong side of 44, especially for RV. Sorry.
Hi, Alan Chen, 8010 Treasure Island Road. So I'm actually going to follow up a little bit on what Ray said. We all know that County Road 44 is a very crowded and dangerous road, and that's what Ray was alluding to. All of the recent deaths have been pulling onto 44. So this is from Silver Lake Road, from Treasure Island Road, and all we're doing is adding developments that are going to be pulling onto 44. What Ray was indicating is, and I have, unfortunately I don't have a big shot of it, but here's County Road 44. These are all the properties that have been annexed by you guys. And there are the two that we're talking about, Treasure Trove here, and this one, Sang Road down here. And if you look at what's actually been happening in terms of the fatalities, these happen to be crosses that are located, one right here by Treasure Trove, exiting out from East Treasure Island Road, and these three right here by Silver Lake, where the Sang Road property is being discussed tonight. Here's the accident with a car or truck hitting a pole and burning up. Here's the one with the fatality just recently. And these both occurred in November of this month. So what we're asking here is that you consider tabling all of these developments until you and the county get together and talk about how to prevent this type of congestion and further traffic deaths. I mean, these deaths are going to be as a result of what's being decided here today. So that's what I want to comment on today. Thank you. Do I give this to someone?
Yeah, city clerk will take it.
That's fine.
Gary Custer, 8909 East Treasure Island Avenue, Leesburg. Both of these entrances that they're showing here, there's a curve on both ends.
Yeah, do me a favor, just stay in front of the microphone. You can pick that up if you'd like.
The road curves on both ends. You come out there on either one of those, you're not going to see the traffic coming. You ain't going to see a thing because they're both on a curve. There's a curve that curves around this way. This one curves the other way. You ain't going to see nobody. It's dangerous. You know, and it's a county road. The county has to approve any repairs to the road, any fixing. In 30 years, ain't nobody done anything. So we're stuck with this road. But you want to keep building houses. You want to keep changing it. And it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So what happens? More people die. I just don't understand where the money's going to come from for the county to fix this road, because you've taken all the tax money right here. When you do this, when you annex this stuff, the county gets nothing. The developer says it comes from the impact fees. Who gets the impact fees off of this? Not the county, but the county's got to fix the road. Catch-22, isn't it?
No, that's actually factually incorrect. The county impact fee is $700, then that for roads. So the city collects that upon issuance of a building permit, and then that $700 goes to the county for the road impact fees in our district. So the city does not receive. So roughly, let's just talk about this real quick factually. Roughly a single-family home in Leesburg, a new single-family home of about 2,000 square feet, the impact fee is going to be roughly about $15,000. Of that $15,000, about $9,500 is the school impact fee. So the city collects that. That goes to the school board. The next biggest impact fee is the city wastewater impact fee. It's about $2,700. The next impact fee is the city and when I say city, it's city of Leesburg, is the city water. That's about $1,500. Next is the county, Lake County road impact fee, which is $700. That goes to the county. And then there's a bunch of nuisance city fees, like, I guess nuisance is a bad word, but small.
No, you were on the right track.
They're smaller. So recreation impact fee, the city about $200. The library impact fee, which actually we collect and we use, but I think you could quasi consider that county, about $250. And then you have the police and fire for the city impact fee, both about $250. So I think if you do all that math, it's about 15,000-ish.
And I want to add, because this is where we've had these, we've talked to the county, and this is my big problem is, so they get that money, but then what they also get is they get the ad valorem money. The county gets the same amount of tax revenue whether your house is in the city or the county. But these houses, they're going to be in the city. So the county's going to get the same tax money. They're not going to provide police. They're not going to provide fire. They're not going to provide services. But they're going to get the same money. They choose not to spend that money on roads. That is a choice the county makes, a choice I disagree with, and I think everyone should disagree with, but that is a choice they make. The money is there for roads. It's an annual ad valorem. They get like 5.5 mils, I think the county is at now, right around there. They're generating tremendous amounts of revenue from all this new growth. They're not choosing to spend it on roads.
Well, then somebody needs to get with the county and get it figured out. Somehow. It doesn't make any sense for people to have to die to go to work.
Any additional public comments? If not, roll call on 6A1.
Yeah, we'll get you sworn in. We'll let you come up. That's all right. You swear affirm that all testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. All right, thank you, sir. Go ahead.
I'll be very brief, but I don't see how this.
Excuse me, I just need your name and address.
Sorry. Yes, I'm Michael Chen. I live on 8010 Treasure Island Road. So I don't see where the money will come in if, to improve or to handle these roads also with the power lines and everything, because there's so much there that any improvements would just kind of be kind of an exponential in cost, right? I mean, I don't see how that can happen anytime soon, and sorry, this was a little last minute. You were. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
You've got the city of.
I just need your
Ma'am,
name.
if you can please state your name and address for the record.
Louise Chen, 8010 Treasure Island Road. Anyway, on this picture, you can see that you have power lines on both sides of the roads. And to move these, you have to pay for the cost of moving the poles as well as the new easements for the poles to move them over to people's properties. And if the houses are too close, then they may not be able, it may be physically impossible to widen this road. These are City of Leesburg electricity on one side, and you get Duke Energy on the other side. Unfortunately, this is one of those roads that's very crowded, it's multi-purpose, so this would be almost, and the high-speed internet, so this would be very, very difficult to widen. That's why it's critical to think about these developments, because right now, it's about 2,200 you'll be adding for a total that's in the process of being built or pending. So anyway, and as Gary said, this is our lives on the line, so, I mean, maybe we need to put more traffic lights, slow the speed limit down. Maybe there's other things that we need to consider. Maybe we need to have a workshop.
And you need to speak with the county about that. We don't have, okay, on the road. The roads and lights falls under state county authority.
We could have a workshop at our house if we could have one with both hands.
Okay.
Yeah, that goes to person.
Okay, thank you. City Clerk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any additional public comments?
Hi, my name is Lisa Hayden, and I live at 35121 Dennis Road. I just had a few conversations with Seth Lynch over at Lake County, and when I asked him, when could we expect County Road 44 to be improved, he said that they have kind of like a 5-year plan in Lake County, and that is not even on their 5-year plan. And he said the biggest obstacle, as Michael and Louise were saying, is the placement of the utility poles. When they go to even put a center turn lane, they have to widen, of course, the entire road. And you'll notice that in parts of County Road 44, they've had to erect guardrails, because once you get within a certain number of feet to these utility poles, they have to make sure that nobody runs into a pole. They will instead, be directed by a guardrail if they start to veer off the road. So that's pretty much the take from Lake County, is nothing's on the horizon for 5 years minimum. And if we did even put center turn lanes where they're needed, and I would imagine that you'd need some sizable ones when you have a 55-mile-an-hour road and you're going to have RVs, which is a great idea for people to have places to store their RVs, but RVs making these left turn lanes on this incredibly dangerous road, that would be a consideration that we, like I said, maybe a little bit of a pause button, see where everything plays out with the 1,900 units that have already been approved, see where that looks in a couple of years, and then maybe we can start doing this again. But at this point in time, it just seems to be recklessly dangerous. Thank you so much for your time.
Any additional public comments? If not, I'll turn to the commission for commissioner comments.
Mike, did when you submitted to the county, did they have any comments regarding roads?
No, they did not. Do have a follow-up comment. If you would try MPO's website, we came across this at Fruitland Park the other day, where MPO's website is more current with the projects that are for consideration than the county's website itself. Yeah, which I believe we satisfied.
Just, again, not to be argumentative, the commission is hearing your concern with regard to traffic. Ma'am, I can't remember your name, but you mentioned the county commission letter of July. Okay, so here's the deal. That is a county commission letter.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is Seth Lynch's letter.
Is that?
Please come to the microphone.
Do you have a copy of it?
No, but when I saw this, yesterday, yes, I do, and I'll give this to you. You can have my phone. When I saw this yesterday, I reached out to Melanie Marsh, because she's so on the ball. 7:45 this morning, she's like, "I'll find out what I can find out for you," and I'm going to try to make it a little big. Yeah. So this. Oh, I'm sorry, dear. No, that's all right. Phones are just annoying. All right, it's too small there, so. Okay, so that's the letter, and it goes into a couple of things about
The comments on this letter is turn lanes on CR 44 at the proposed development entrance is what they're going to require. Existing right-of-way does not meet the required minimal standard widths. What they mean by that is they'll have to provide, the developer has to provide the right-of-way. A traffic impact analysis will be required, meeting Lake Sumter MPO guidelines, and traffic analysis is highly recommended, which is required and done. And then it will, under specific public works, so those were the general comments. And under the specific comments is CR 44 is a major collector road that will require left and right turn lanes at the proposed entrance. Those are standard comments that we get back from them. Minimum required right-of-way for CR 44 is 50 feet from center line, so it's a total width of 100 feet. Public Works recommended requirements for the CR 44 Silver Lake PUD impacts to the roadways and drainage systems. So they're talking about access off of CR 44 to meet Lake County's access management standards. That is the standards that they use in terms of turn distance, turn radius, all kinds of things there. So the applicant has to meet all of these requirements. Again, it repeats itself about lining up with proposed northern access, lining up with the existing Spring Court and CR 44 intersection. Left and right turn lanes on CR 44 will be required. Sidewalk trail required on 44. Anything that comes in those areas or along a collector like this gets this pretty much the same letter back. It's customized for individuals.
And so, Dan, in the PUD that the commission is considering, we have the boilerplate language. So just a couple comments
That's
for
correct.
procedural understanding. That is a typical letter you get from the county. In development, developers are required to mitigate traffic impact based on specific studies. So that letter that you received is the typical boilerplate, and there's some stuff that's tailored to this, to the project. Obviously, the utility poles. Okay, but that's typical boilerplate language. So the process will be, after this gets approved, if it gets approved, then the next phase is a specific traffic study. The improvements will then be specifically stated by the county what needs to get done. What we do to ensure that the counties, whether the county commission believes it or not, is we put the county's comments in the PUD. So Dan, what section of the PUD is that? And it's boilerplate language from us. The city considers the PUD, and the PUD says in paragraph, Dan, spell it out, the developer is required to do everything the county says. So you can't turn a subdivision down because of concerns, as crazy as it may sound to you, based on traffic. Because the law is that the developer has the right to mitigate the traffic impacts. So our PUD says the developer has to do whatever the county says. And now that's not the county commission. That's the professional county staff that's charged with design and review and impacts of the roads. So Dan, what paragraph is that?
7, under site access and signage, 7C, all access points subject to review and approval by the appropriate permitting agency, including FDOT, Lake Sumter MPO, Lake County, and the city of Leesburg as applicable.
So,
and it goes on.
Broad statement, paragraph 7 of the PUD says if any of these regulatory agencies say you got to make a change, you got to make a change. So if they've got to put 2 turn lanes in east and west, is County Road east or west or north south?
It's east and west.
Is it
but
east west? Yeah, right. So if they say they need 2 traffic lanes, 2 ingress to get off of 44, and the utility poles are in the road, Duke transmission on the one side, Leesburg distribution on the other, that means the developer's going to have to give up more of their property to move those utility poles. So that doesn't mean you got to relocate 5 miles of utility poles up and down CR 44. It means probably 3 or 4 to relocate. So, and then the developer's going to have to probably give up some width or some lots, and as they get into a final design and plat this, they're going to have to be required to make the proper road modifications. That's what it says in paragraph 7. Now, the discrepancy that we've been getting into with what county says and what the county commission says, and you've got to be careful of that. And that's why, so the letter that I thought you were referencing was from the county commission, because the county commission recently sent us a letter from Commissioner Parks that recommended that this body not approve subdivisions based on these road issues. That was a tricky letter, because that letter was not from the professional staff. So the county commission's not charged with issuing what requirements need to be made. They're like this body, but they rely on their professional staff. And so the county, this body received a letter from the county that said, don't annex things based on road issues, but that didn't come from the professional staff, and that didn't come from a majority vote of the city commission, or the county commission. Thank you for the correction. And that's significant, because two commissioners from a county can't send a letter or shouldn't send a letter to the city or a municipal corporation without direct votes. They did it on consent. And there was no direction, but there was a letter that said, don't do that. So those are important delineations because of the growth issues that are going on. But the important thing for this body to consider and for the public to understand is that road issues do get looked at. It's in the PUD, typically paragraph 7, where the city says you got to do this, 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 and this. A great example of this is in the Eagle Tail subdivision, and everybody probably missed it because it was on consent. There was a resolution where the county was granting the city road dedication for the entryway of Eagle Tail, which in layman's term, which we all refer to it as the McElroy subdivision, or the number 2 road subdivision off CR 48. So right there, that resolution is proof that what we do in the PUD actually starts to get done. So the county said, you take this road right away, you make it part of the subdivision. They got to widen this. They got to make a bigger access point. They got to take more land off the front of their areas, or I not specifically don't take that, but they granted that property to the city, and now we'll hold the developer accountable to build the intersection at Eagle Tail and 48. So it's a long process. There's these concerns, but there has to be deference to the mitigation that can occur. I know that was long-winded again, but these are things that, so this body grapples with. So, and the count and the board too. And so part of that $700, actually that needs to go into different areas. So why does the county say that we're not making any improvements? They're right. The county has Lake County divides up Lake County into 4 specific districts at this time where road projects are done and impact fees are collected. And at this time, there's a different level of impact fee in each of there's different impact fee levels for the 4 districts. There is no Leesburg, which I believe is called the North Central District, no CIPs, because the information from the county, their staff, says that other growth issues supersede ours. So if you look at the county's 5-year plans and you even look at the county's impact fee plans, they say that the South District, Claremont, Groveland, Mineola, Mascot, they have $109 million of improved projects to do. In our district, which is Leesburg, Fruitland Park, Lady Lake, kind of the northwest corner of the county, even though they call it North Central, is $33 million of projects. And those projects are all in Fruitland Park. So the extrapolation is that, yes, there's issues with traffic, there's accidents that happen on these roads. That doesn't mean they're not developable, but there's mitigatory steps the developer has to make, and that's covered in paragraph 7 of the PUD. And before they plat and finish this, it goes to the county for review. I know that was long-winded, but that's an important step that I think gets overlooked. And that's not an advocacy to approve or deny, that's just the process.
No, thank you for your comments and clarification. I mean, I've learned all that since I came on the commission. We appreciate your comments. I think somehow the county's trying to make us the bad guy. I would encourage you to continue to speak with the county and the commissioners. Any more public comments?
Do you want me to give you my address again? Linda Kiro, 10220 Bumblebee Lane, Leesburg, Florida. Is the county required? This is another question. Is the county required or the builder required to make improvements to the road before those units are actually habitable? Is it before the occupancy permit is given?
Yes. The next phase, let's assume assume a subdivision plan like this is approved. It goes and sits until the developer and market conditions and they start developing. So the next step is when they start developing. Now they're going back to St. John's. Now they're going back to the county. Now they're getting back information on things they have to do. So they get that review. And then let's say widening, access, DXL lanes need to be put in pursuant to comments from the MPO or Lake County staff. Those get transferred to us. So when they start to plat the subdivision, which is the next phase, so all these little, like in that picture, that gets platted. So before they can sell that lot, it has to be platted. And then that plat is then dedicated and becomes a public record. You can't sell a lot and you can't start building on a lot unless it's platted. So when these improvements come back, is this body will approve a plat of a phase of that subdivision. And in that plat, that's where the additional right-of-ways, the road improvements are specified that they have to do. So they have to plat it, they have to build it pursuant to those revisions, and then they don't get their building permits unless that's done. So what typically happens is we'll get a plat, a new design for a road. They'll start doing the road design and the road construction and the interior construction all at once. But that's after it's been platted.
So, to be clear, County Road 44 will, as well as the internal roads of the subdivision, will all be happening at the same time.
Or in phases.
Before homes are built.
The improvements on 44 will have to serve that whole subdivision. They may not build the whole subdivision at once, but the improvements that impact the whole subdivision's impact on 44 will have to be made prior to them selling one house in phase one.
One last question about it. When they do all that, oh, I'm sorry. I just had a senior moment. I'll ask again some other time.
I forget what I'm saying when Al starts talking half the time, too.
It was really important, Al.
Dan's this is his last meeting, so my ribs are sore.
Any other public comments? Okay, commission, comments from the commission?
I understand the concerns. I'm on 44 several times a week, especially in the morning. That's I wouldn't want to be pulling out from any of those roads trying to cross 44 to turn back the opposite way. So I understand their concerns, and I understand we don't have any jurisdiction on what type of traffic control device they may put on the entrance exits out of the subdivision, but I would find it hard to approve this without some decel lanes and some traffic signals.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan, please.
To add to what Mr. Minner, the city manager, was saying, the PUD is written so that whatever Lake County decides is what has to happen. The reason we don't put those specific list of what the county asked for is if the county changes what it needs, if it gets new information, if the design on the subdivision is changed and they decide they want more right-of-way, they're not stuck specifically with those conditions. We've written it so that they have to do what the county requires, MPO requires, any city of Leesburg requirements for the rest of the PUD. And that's written that way specifically so that if the county says, well, we need 5 more feet of right-of-way, they're not stuck with what's written in there. So they do have to, as the city manager was saying, prior to selling those lots, they have to finish up any widening. It's at the developer's expense. If you move a power pole, developer pays for it. If you take care of the right-of-way, developer has to either pay for it or provide it. So that's in all cases, not just this one. I mean, that's universal to how it works. So I just wanted to add that, Mr. Mayor.
And just to jump in on what Dan said as well, that would require the PUD in an entirety to come back before the commission to have an amendment voted on in order to make any changes. These specific development requirements were included within the PUD. So the broader language, as Mr. Miller was saying, does sort of allow or require those county improvements and the things that the county would say. It requires that to be done, but it does so in a more flexible manner so that those are required, and as the county comments and information changes, those requirements are imposed, but not in specific terms, because again, whether a decel lane is needed or not needed, those things I believe are fleshed out once they start digging into the specifics of the studies and those types of issues. So it'd be hard to, I think, anticipate what all of those issues would be to cover everything in the PUD, and doing so in the broader language allows the goal to be met here of requiring the county's specifications to be met, but does so with broad language so that it doesn't have to come back, so every little piece is amended each time there's a change.
Okay, thank you both. Yeah, come forward, Mike.
Just one quick comment. Your city manager was dead on about the amount of work that goes into this. And I think we just need to keep in mind this is a comp plan, but we have to adhere to the PUD that's written. So we're on page 1 of this long-term task we're about to take, but much engineering and design needs to be done to this concept plan, but we will adhere to the PUD. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you. Okay, commissioners, any comments? Okay, if none, roll call.
This is on the annexation.
Oh, okay, okay, this is roll call on 6A1, just on annexation, then we'll move on to discuss or approve 2 and 3.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
No.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Mayor Peterson?
Yes. So we've already introduced, I guess now I need a motion to approve 6A2.
Move for approval.
Second.
And developer, staff, you have any comments on zoning? Dan? No comment? Petitioner? All right, go ahead.
No, sir, I made all the comments.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
thought so. I just want to be, petitioner, any comments on zoning? Okay, public comments on the zoning? Commissioners? Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
No.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Mayor Peterson?
Yes. Motion to approve 6A3.
Move for approval.
Second.
Looking at staff, petitioner, public comments, commission? Roll call.
Commissioner Connell?
No.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Mayor Peterson?
Yes. So moving on.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to 6A, 4, and 5, I'm going to ask that they be introduced together and read, and then we'll come back and approve them one by one. So someone please introduce 6A, 4, and 5.
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
6A4, an ordinance amending the future land use map of a comprehensive plan of the city of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 59.6 plus minus acres from City of Leesburg Industrial to City of Leesburg Estate Residential for property generally located east of County Road 33 and north of Manor Oaks Court, lying in Section 22, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6A5, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 59.6 plus minus acres from City of Leesburg M1 Industrial to City of Leesburg PUD Planned Unit Development to allow a single-family residential development for property generally located east of County Road 33 and north of Manor Oaks Court, lying in Section 22, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Okay, comments from staff?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request for annexation, large-scale comp plan map amendment, and PUD zoning for 59.6 acres, which is generally located east of County Road 33 and north of Manor Oaks Court. Future land use is being requested to go from industrial to estate residential, and the zoning from N1, which is industrial, to city PUD plan unit development. This will allow for single-family residential development of 141 units with lot sizes mixed between 50 and 60-foot lots. 1,500 and 1,700 square foot homes respectively, 2.3 units per acre, 35% open space. Again, single-family uses, the regular design standards for all homes, dark sky lighting requirements, gutters on all sides for houses smaller than 60 feet, lots smaller than 60 feet wide, 25-foot buffer around the entire property, trees in each yard, wetlands protection, irrigation controls. The applicant did agree to a fence along Manor Oaks Court, which is along the length of the property boundary there, so that was added into the PUD. 0.9 acres of recreation areas. And again, Mr. Mike Rankin of Land Planning Group of Mount Dora is here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
Good evening again. For the record, Michael Rankin, LPG. As Mr. Miller described, this is a 59.6 acre development. We are asking for amendment to the future land use and also the change in the zoning. We anticipate 70 lots in the 50s and 71 in the 60s for a total of 141 lots. And Dan did mention the rec facility, and I think the density on this one is 2.43 or 2.4. Yeah. And I'd be happy to answer any question you may have.
At this point, public comments? I'll let you come back up, Mike, after public comments, if you want to. Any public comments? Commissioners, comments?
I do have a couple. Dan, you said I'm reading this letter here that was given to us on behalf of the Board of Directors of Plantation. I guess my first question, it says Manor Oak was not a public road once it enters into powers. So are they going to be able to utilize Manor Oak as a public road, or is it really a private road?
Part of Manor Oak, my understanding is that part of Manor Oak is private and part of it's public. Regardless of which it is, if they want an entrance that's by the private side, then they'll have to get an agreement from the owner, which my understanding would be Plantation. Part that's closer to the road, I believe, is public, and they can use that. On the original site plan, it did show an entrance that was further to the, I believe it was the east. My understanding is under the new site plan, it turns into an emergency access only, and then the boulevard entrance is on Highway 33. So originally they had two access points, and instead they turned it into a boulevard on 33 and an emergency access only on Manor Oaks Court, which is appropriate.
Okay. So Manor Oak is the back entrance to Plantation?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay,
yes.
so, but their access to Manor Oak would be emergency access only, that wouldn't interfere with the residents using the back entrance to Plantation?
That is correct. The only way they'd even bother with it is if there was an emergency. Normally this could be gated, and there could be a Knox box or a siren activated to turn the gate, something like that.
Okay. And I know you'd referenced the 6-foot fence. I'm looking at the last paragraph. That's why I asked you if you had this letter that was given to us. I don't know what they're asking for here. In my opinion, it's unreasonable.
At the Planning Commission meeting, they came up and asked for a fence or a wall along Manor Oak Court. The issue was that people seem to want to sneak into Plantation and use their facilities, their swimming pool. I don't know why they do. That's the concern. And Mr. Beliveau, who represented them at the Planning Commission, did mention during the meeting and after that he'd be happy to put in a fence. So that's why we went ahead and made that change.
Okay, so will the 25-foot, will it run the length of Manor Oak to the back gate of Plantation, or just to where their emergency access is going to be?
If you can see this, it would need to run from about 25 feet from the corner here to preserve the clear sight triangle.
Yeah, the triangle, sure.
And then all the way back to any lots that are developed.
Okay. Okay.
So it might not go the entire length.
Sure.
But that's water
Well,
retention
that's
area.
fine, yeah. Okay, and how about the 25-foot landscape buffer they're asking for?
The landscape buffer can be handled as either a planted landscape buffer, or if there's enough trees, it can be left as a natural buffer.
Okay, so they would put the fence and the buffer?
Unless there is some strong concern about it one way or another, staff doesn't have an objection if you want to put the fence on the road or leave the buffer and then put the fence behind the buffer. Either
Like I
way it
said,
works.
I'm just going off the
Sure.
letter here from
Yes,
the
sir.
board of directors, and I don't think what they're asking for is unreasonable, and I would like to, at least in my opinion, be able to accommodate
And-
what they're asking for.
And based on that information, we did make the change in the PUD, so it should be in this document that you're reviewing today, that the 6-foot fence is required.
And the buffer too.
And the buffer is already in there, yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Any more comments?
Is there anybody from Plantation that has any comments?
Okay.
I mean, I
You have some comments, Commissioner?
just wanted to hear what, if they were satisfied with, everybody's good?
No additional public comments? Okay, Commissioners?
The only thing I want to make sure is before we vote, that I just spoke with Mr. Miller about is in the PUD with the 25-foot buffer and the fence.
And he's representing it is my understanding.
Okay,
And we're aware that's what you're requesting.
okay.
Okay, if no other comments, roll call on 6A4.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Burry?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Mayor Peterson?
Yes. Motion to-
you.
Yeah, thank you. Motion to approve 6A5.
Move for approval.
Second.
Dan, comments from staff on zoning? Okay. Petitioner, think you're okay. Public comments? Commissioners? Roll call.
Commissioner Burry?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Mayor Peterson?
Yes. Moving on, I'm gonna have, please, I just want to introduce 6A, 6, 7, and 8, and then we will again discuss them and vote on them individually.
Introduced and has to be read by title only.
6A6, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, annexing certain real property consisting of approximately 133 plus minus acres, being generally located east of U.S. Highway 27 and south of Dewey Robbins Road, lying in Section 5, Township 21 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, providing that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city, providing that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city, as if all such territory had been a part of the city of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances, providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 3 and providing an effective date. 6A7, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the city of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 133 plus minus acres from Lake County Rural to City of Leesburg Estate Residential for property generally located east of U.S. Highway 27 and south of Dewey Robbins Road, lying in Section 5, Township 21 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6A8, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 133 plus minus acres from Lake County A Agriculture to City of Leesburg PUD Planned Unit Development to allow a single-family residential subdivision for property generally located east of U.S. Highway 27 and south of Dewey Robbins Road, lying in Section 5, Township 21 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Okay, comments from staff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an annexation into the city of Leesburg with a request to change the future land use designation from Lake County Rural to City of Leesburg Estate Residential. It's also a request to change the zoning in this area from Lake County A Agriculture to City of Leesburg PUD. Overall, 133 acres with 391 units. I believe we talked about 50 by 110 lots. Is that correct, Mr. Snyder? And I believe the PUD shows 120. I'd like to correct that typo, please. It gives us a density of 2.94 units an acre, 35% open spaces, single-family uses only. There are design and architectural standards for all the homes, dark sky lighting, gutters around all four sides of the houses as needed, 25-foot buffer, as we've seen previously, wetlands protection, irrigation controls, 18.5, I'm showing 18.5 units, acres of recreational requirements. I need to check that. My notes may not be correct. And so standard PUD, second reading. Mr. Ben Snyder and Tony Iorio of Hanover Homes, as well as Mr. Andrew McCown, are here to answer any specific other comments you may have.
Good evening, Commission. Andrew McCown of GAI Consultants in Orlando. 618 East South Street is our address. I'm representing Hanover Land, which they're, as Dan said, they're in the audience as well, if you have any questions. Dan did mention the typo of the 50 by 120 versus the 50 by 110 foot lots, which we appreciate that. There were a couple of other items in the PUD conditions that were discussed with the Planning Commission, and we did come to an agreement during the Planning Commission session, and I just wanted to bring those up to make sure that those got into the ordinance. Item 6D speaks of a split rail wooden fence requirement along Dewey Robbins Road. We're happy with the fence, but we would propose a white vinyl fence construction instead of requiring the split rail wooden fence. The vinyl is going to look nicer for longer and be more durable and easier to maintain. And that was agreed to by Planning Commission. Also in item 6D, requires a solid vinyl perimeter fence, and that would be around the entire property, which we would propose just along Dewey Robbins Road. In the past, we worked with neighbors and on other projects when it was necessary to mitigate compatibility concerns. We were happy to do the white vinyl fence, but we don't see any such concerns here on this site, especially with Barkey on the west and the existing uses on the other sides. And that was also agreed to during Planning Commission. And then item 13B was an ADA compliant trail around the pond, the central stormwater pond. And we are showing a trail around the pond, but we would like the ADA requirement portion stricken so that we have the flexibility to use the materials that are appropriate for that site, as opposed to, say, cement or asphalt trail sidewalk around the pond. And the last, I think that was it, actually. So those items. And Dan, I don't know if those made it into the final version of the ordinance that the commission has.
The ADA was supposed to come out because that was in another PUD, that this one, and so that was a typo. But beyond that, staff agrees with all of these corrections.
Okay. I'm going to go to public comment. I'll give you a chance to come back up. I'm going to go to public comments next, and we'll get then the commissioners and give you and Dan a chance to come back if needed. Any public comments at this point?
I'll say something. So I don't know how expensive ADA compliance is, but I think that, we're not getting any younger here in Lake County, and having properties that do have that make it a lot better for people like me to look forward to growing old in my home. So you might want to consider that. Also, the second thing, why are gutters only as needed? Why aren't gutters always needed?
We've modified that based on the size of the lots. If the lot's a little bit wider, then there's opportunity for better swale construction. If the houses start to get a little bit closer, then a good drainage swale can't be installed. So then the gutters can transport the water better from the gutter to a down pipe to an underground pipe, which brings the water out to a curb. And typically that happens around 50, 60 feet differences. And the 10 to 15 foot separation.
Any other public comments?
Hi, Lisa Hayden again, 35121 Dennis Road. What I don't understand, and a woman brought this up on the meeting on the 14th, is why are we held to a 1 dwelling unit per 5 acre requirement because we're in the rural area of Lake County, but it doesn't seem like, it seems as soon as somebody wants to say, oh, no, I don't want that on my property anymore, it's fine to say, let's put 300 houses or 155 houses. I'm confused about that. And I understand that there was a problem that Mr. Minner had said about the getting information directly from the Board of County Commissioners. But again, on a letter was written about this Anthony property from Chairman Parks.
That was the one I was referencing.
Right. Okay. So Chairman Parks had said, this property is in the rural future land use category by Lake County, and this comprehensive plan, before we bought here, my husband and I looked it up. It's pretty involved. But it seems as though just by raising your hand and saying, oh, no, not for this parcel, can we just get rid of that? It's like, okay, yeah, let's do that. Let's get rid of it for this parcel. So it said here, the applicant's proposing approximately 391 residential units. I don't know if that's still current as of now, but it should be a maximum of 26 dwelling units. And that's because that's what is aesthetic to, in compliance with what's surrounding it. So that's where I'm confused, is how come parcel by parcel, the owner can just say, nope, just get rid of that requirement here. We're going to build as many as possible. So if you could, I just,
Okay,
to educate.
And you referenced something personal, because the way I heard it was like, you live in a certain spot where it's 1 to 5, right? Is that, then you live off 44?
Right, yeah,
Okay.
we live
So
right off there.
I'm assuming from that statement that you live in unincorporated lake.
Exactly.
Okay, so with that, so I heard you right. Okay, so here's the situation. The county and the city both promulgate land development regulations. The county is a political subdivision pursuant to state statutes. Political subdivisions typically have a lot different land use categories than cities. They will range from heavily dense urban counties like Dade to very rural counties like Gadsden. Rural political subdivisions or counties will also have, like Lake, a lot of different stuff. You'll have rural areas, you'll have industrial areas, you'll have residential areas. And so while we do the same type of promulgation of land development regulations, we kind of have a little bit of a different rule. They're political subdivisions under state statutes. We're municipal corporations under state statutes. So the basic difference just in that state statute delineation is we're urban, counties are rural. So counties will have a different flavor. They'll have an agricultural zoning, they'll have an industrial zoning. The county comp plan will have areas where you live where it's rural in nature, and their comprehensive plan will say, in these areas of our political subdivision or our county, we're going to have areas that are 1 to 5 acres. Municipal corporations or cities typically don't have agricultural designations. We're urban. The state statutes recognize that municipal corporations may grow or annex like we're doing this evening. So when the cities annex pursuant to Chapter 171 of Florida statutes, and it could potentially be Chapter 171 Part 1 and or Part 171 Part 2, gives us our rules of engagement on how we annex, which is this process tonight. A municipal corporation's right to annex, land use, and zone supersedes the county's existing land uses. So if the county, like in this case in Hodges is located within the county's comprehensive plan of the Apopka Yalaha Rural Protection Zone, RPZ. So the county established that this area, and that line is like a quarter mile off 27 just to the east, that all this area, as long as it's in Lake County, is a rural protection zone and can't develop into an urban nature. The hitch is that's under the county's comprehensive plan. So when a developer seeks annexation or growth, they will come to the city for an urban type of land use plan that provides more density. And so when the municipal corporation annexes, we're allowed to take that unincorporated property in, no matter what the zoning, it can be anything, and we can change it upon this process to a municipal zoning category. And that's what we're doing in the spot.
All right.
So the count, and then therein lies the political dilemma. Therein lies, are you doing things correctly? Therein lies the county saying, oh, this is the RPZ, you can't do this, or it doesn't work. Our argument in our comprehensive plan is that while this is rural in nature, it's compact and contiguous to our existing city limits. This is even beyond our Part 2 right to annex. It's compact and contiguous. It's urban in nature next to other urban unincorporated areas like Plantation. And so it's a fit growth pattern of urban growth.
I just
So
want
that's the answer to your question.
And I don't want to get argumentative. I just want to get more educated. So we're not contiguous. Treasure Trove is not, and I'm sorry I didn't even say that tonight, but we're not contiguous. But you're kind of going around and snapping up these properties around 44. But you're doing that under the ISBA, from what I understand. That's
Yes.
giving you,
That's what's really important. And I think what the county, Special Commissioner Campione, is doing is completely disingenuous because she voted for, so rural protection zones, right? We know that those were established 2008, maybe, a while ago. Anyways, so there we have those. 2014, with Commissioner Campione signed and voted in favor of the ISBA, where they said these properties in the rural protection zone should eventually be part of the city. That's what the ISBA said.
Is that what they meant?
Yes, that is literally what it says. They went through the areas and they said, these parts, non-contiguous, should eventually be part of Leesburg, these should be part of Groveland, these should be part of Claremont. So the county commission came back after they established rural protection zones and then voted in favor of the ISBA that says we can do this.
And there's two parts to that, okay? And there's where there is again where some confusion lies within the county, because we got 4 municipal corporations in the political subdivision of Lake County. In 2013, the ISBA was approved, and the ISBA there's a 2013 agreement where an ISBA was approved. And that was the one that Commissioner Campione as chairman approved. And that was a county agreement between Lake County, Claremont, Groveland, Mineola, Leesburg, and Howey. Okay? That laid out the Part 171, Part 2 annexation rights, which allows a municipality or municipal corporation to annex non-contiguously. That agreement said you can annex anywhere in your prescribed territory, which is Exhibit A to the 2013 ISBA between those cities. But you have to do it in 2 ways. Exhibit B1 to that 2013 ISBA, you can automatically annex these areas, and we identified that in the ISBA. And B2, you can do it in these areas non-contiguously. We identified that on the map, but you need county approval. So that was the original ISBA between those cities. Specific to Leesburg, in 2014, we went back and we created an ISBA that was between the city of Leesburg and Lake only. And all the other all the other cities in the original ISBA agreement were copied in on the agreement and signed off on the agreement. But Leesburg specifically in 2014, Commissioner Campione voted on that. I think Jimmy Connors was chairman who signed the agreement in 2014. That agreement provided Leesburg the unilateral right to annex anywhere in the ISBA territory because we worked out an agreement for fire services. So we exchanged fire services for the right to annex anywhere in the ISBA agreement. So you have to put those two agreements together. It's the 2013 ISBA agreement between those cities that we mentioned, Yalaha, blah, blah, I won't repeat them all, but that agreement, plus the specific one in 2014, which was approved for Leesburg. So Leesburg, and I don't know what the other cities, I don't think the other cities in the original 13 have this agreement. I think individual agreements that were similar were struck with Eustis and Tavares in separate agreements, but I know for Leesburg, and I can give you the documents if you want to read them. It's, you got to put the 2013 ISBA and the supplemental 2014 together. So the county for Leesburg granted Leesburg the unilateral right to annex anywhere in the ISBA without the county's permission. Argument 2, we will contend, other than the, and I don't mean to point, but we will contend that the annexations like up on 44 are mostly compact and contiguous, with the exception of probably the South Bend one way up top. But we would also contend that pretty much every annexation that we have done in the South Side and in the county RPZ is compact and contiguous to existing city limits or is adjacent and next to urban unincorporated area. So our legal position will be that pretty much any annexation that we've done in the South, like in the Anthony properties, is compact and contiguous, and we can do it with Part 171, Part 1, or we could do it with Part 71, Part 2.
And that Leesburg does not feel that they need to be compatible with the surrounding areas that are 5 acres or 10 acres or whatever they are.
No.
No.
Okay. So in these areas, Whispering Hills, for example, is adjacent to Plantation. Okay, so Plantation's not incorporated, but it has the same density pattern as what is proposed in Whispering Hills. And then Whispering Hills, Hodges, Lake Co., Windsong, all those subdivisions, they run down all compact and contiguous and all look like the development that's occurred from 48, like Highland Lakes, like Clear Springs, like Windsong, like Arlington Ridge, like Legacy. So all of these subdivisions are all compact and contiguous right down the 27 corridor. And yes, some of that is in the RPZ, but the municipal corporation's right to annex and change land use supersedes the county's RPZ.
Right, well,
Those are the rules. That's
I don't
the
want to
law.
keep anybody here over. I feel bad enough making all these questions.
No, I
but
think
really
those are
don't
good
understand.
discussion points
But
because and I don't mean to talk over you,
No,
but those
no,
are
that's
really
fine.
super good discussion points because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about things that have gone on. Like for example, and I don't mean to be long-winded, but there's these misconceptions like how we just went through an annexation process where they were trying to do a non-contiguous annexation pursuant to ISBA, but they needed county approval. Because if you go to that agreement, that area that they're looking kind of by Bishopsgate off 48, that was in a B2 section of their ISBA, the 2013 ISBA. And if you read that document, if you read the 2013 ISBA document, not only are the map lines in there that show what the ISBA territory is, Exhibit A, not only are there the map lines for B1 and B2 territories, the document actually lists out by alt key every parcel that is pursuant to those exhibits. Leesburg in Exhibit B1 has about 17 pages of alt key numbers. And it's like 5 columns all the way down, all these alt key numbers. In B1 and B2 of that exhibit, we have probably 20 pages of alt key numbers. When you look at our other sister municipal corporations, I think Groveland has 2 pages, Mascot has 1, Howey had none. So Leesburg specifically researched what areas we wanted to grow into. We listed alt keys to support the map suggestions in the areas. And then we came back with the 2014 supplemental, and the county said, okay, so then we spelled out an inter-service agreement on fire services. And with that agreement, whereby we answer everybody, they answer our calls, we answer your calls. And by the way, we're probably about a 60-40 ratio. The city of Leesburg probably answers about 60% of the calls in the unincorporated area in our ISBA for fire services versus them answering 40% for us. So we're a giver nation in that. And in that's important. We're a giver nation. We do county fire services. And then I don't mean to be long-winded, but these are the facts that when the county yells at us, they forget to bring up. This is why they gave us that annexation authority, is because we're covering their fire services.
So if that alt key is listed in those 20-something pages, chances are it's an annexation if it's requested.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the education, and I'm sorry to keep all your time. And I do want to say something to Commissioner Roebuck. I appreciate you moving your request earlier in the evening, because as you saw, some people who have to wake up early, they got to get up. But I like the show, so thank you so much. And I appreciate Commissioner Burry and Commissioner Connell's support in the not looking to annex. Thank you.
Where were we?
I think we're on the annexation.
No, on annexation. Any more public comments on annexation 6A6? If not, I'll turn to the commissioners. Any comments?
Can we put Al on the timer for now on?
Sorry about that.
So just say Lakefront TV, I need to do a special on ISBA.
I almost was going to do a presentation, an update presentation on the ISBA, but I knew it was going to come one way or another, right?
Unfortunately, people down here, so they're going to come next meeting. So just do a presentation.
I'll call Dr. Anna Marie in the morning.
We'll get a clock for our city manager too, Commissioner Connell.
Can I have at least 5 minutes?
We'll take 5. We'll take 5. If no other comments, I guess I need a motion to approve 6A6.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Burry?
Yes.
Mayor Peterson?
No. And I want to qualify. I voted down the Hodges agreement development, and I just, for the road, on Dewey Robbins Road, and I just couldn't support this one. I've met with the developer. I've talked about it. They know my position. I welcome Hanover and thank them for their investment in Leesburg, but I struggle with this one. I need a motion to approve 6A7.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Burry?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Mayor Peterson?
No. Need a motion to approve 6A8.
Move for approval.
Second.
No comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Burry?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Mayor Peterson?
No. Moving on, first reading of ordinances, we have none. Non-routine items, none. Informational reports are attached. Any comments from the commission on the informational reports?
Yeah, if,
Oh, no.
make it quick.
All right.
Start the clock.
Yeah, see if I can do it. On a monthly basis, we provide you these financial reports, which is an overall summary of revenue and expenses for all the city funds. The one, obviously, this was for closeout of September, so you get a snapshot at the end of the fiscal year. So that was labeled appropriately. So then we put it. The next one is to compare to last year. We had the wrong date on this one, so it makes it look different. So this number should say October 21 through September 22. So That's in there. We'll try to do a better format and put these things together so there's less paper and easier review. There you go.
And not to encourage you, but the medical insurance, since that's a positive.
Yeah,
after last-
you brought that up. We did, we were about 175,000 in the hole for fiscal year '22 on medical insurance. I think when we shifted those funds, we shifted about 1.2 million, so the fund had about 1.2. So we were able to use a little bit of that cash. That loss actually at one point of $120,000-ish is actually a reasonable absorbable cost that we think we can catch up with. We started out that year in fiscal year '22 really bad, but we got better. And the trend that finished off for about the last 9 months, if that holds true, our estimate for '23 should be right on target. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Okay, and that's why I wanted you to bring that up, because we had a couple rough years, so it's nice to see this one close, close to balance. Thank you.
He made it.
He made it, even with me pushing him on. Any other comments from the commission on the financial reports? No. If none, moving on, city attorney items.
No items this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. City manager items.
No items.
Wow. Roll call.
Commissioner Christian?
Well, since it's Commissioner Roebuck's last meeting, unless he's going to come to the January meeting, I want to just say it's been a pleasure. These 8 years working with Commissioner Roebuck, I can say one thing about him: very consistent for 8 years straight. Pensions, absolutely no, every time. So I just want to just commend him on just being a stellar commissioner, not afraid of the crowd that showed up, but he always stood by what he believed in. I think he made Leesburg a better place. So kudos and congratulations on your trip to Cambodia. I told the city attorney we lived through you, Dan.
Commissioner Burry?
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Just say it's been a pleasure, been an honor serving the last 8 years. I'm certainly thankful for term limits. No choice about what I'm doing next, not this. But it's been great. Certainly, it's been all 8 years on the commission with Commissioner Christian, and have enjoyed that. Learned a lot from him early on. I learned. I better figure out how I can agree with him on most things, because he's going to pack the room better than anyone else, like his entire church here. So at least if I'm going to disagree, I need to be nice. But it's been great. I've enjoyed serving with Commissioner Burry, Mayor Peterson, and then learning, reminding myself that from Commissioner Keller that it's still okay to say no. I don't just no as much as I used to, so it's always good to do that. But mostly, I want to thank staff for the last 8 years. It's been great. I tell people all the time, being a commissioner is easy as long as you just kind of mostly just step back and let staff do their thing. That's, I think, largely in part to Al's leadership. He's been here more than me, actually, so 9 years. So that's like a lifetime in a city manager's role, but I hope he's here at least another 9, and I hope the future commissioners mostly listen to him. It's okay to disagree sometime, but mostly he knows what he's doing, and I can only imagine it's hard enough running a company, but if you had to run a company with 5 bosses that change every 2 years, that's got to be about one of the toughest jobs, and you do a great job, and so thank you to all the staff, and yeah, it's been fun.
Commissioner Connell?
I don't have anything tonight.
Mayor Peterson?
Commissioner Roebuck, are you going to be at the organizational meeting?
January 9th.
Maybe. Okay. Well, I mean, I was saving my comments, but just in case I miss you, I have to say.
It was non-committal.
Yeah, I know. So I have to say it's been a pleasure to work with him. I think Commissioner Roebuck has raised the bar for commissioners. Nobody knows budget better than him, so now I'm going to have to look at the budget like 5 times as closely, because I could always count on Commissioner Roebuck to go through it from A to Z. You've done a great job for the city. It's been just great work with you. Been a great commissioner. I have nothing else. Meeting adjourned. Try and make it, Dan.
Yeah, we'll try.